place where no one is seen as a stranger, where no one is ever faced with danger. A place that is gentle, kind and light, where nothing would ever trigger a fight. A place that is boundless and wide, where we walk with angels side by side. A place of smiles and happy tears, where our hearts are open and there are no more fears. A place where love is seen on every face and arms are open wide to embrace. A place where everyone there shares the same, where you are true though, and yet no one knows your name. A place where mysteries are explored, where truth is accepted and never ignored. A place where those of old age are wide-eyed and still learning, where time seems to rewind and to youth we are returning.
Hello there, Pastor Dorman.
Well, hey there, Mom. How you doing?
I'm hanging in there, young man. Anything happening good in your area?
I don't know about in my area, but in Georgia it did. we actually just got home maybe about an hour ago.
Oh, really?
Yeah, we was in Georgia this weekend.
Well, we won't hold you too long tonight. Then you probably need to rest up a little bit.
Hey, we just full of life after all that happened this weekend.
And so it was good. It was a good trip then.
Yes, it was a wonderful trip. We went to see the church that is that we're overseeing. And,
Yeah.
that was the first time we was introduced or exposed to the congregation as a whole. And of course, my wife and I, we ministered a little bit. It was just amazing.
That's great. That's great. What's the name of that church, Pastor Norman?
Wall of Fire Christian Worship Center.
Wall of Fire. Where did they get that name from?
Actually, she got it from the book of Zechariah, where
Okay.
the Lord talks about the wall of fire. And they started probably a little over a year ago. We're planning their installation service and inauguration as well. And we got a lot going on, a whole lot. We had a meeting on the way coming back with an apostle who actually stayed in a room across from us in Augusta, because we stopped there before we went into Marietta on Saturday, ran it. And so he wanted to talk to us before we headed back. So we met with him in another area of Georgia on our way coming back. So
Oh, so you've had a very productive trip. That's wonderful. I'm
yes.
glad you had a good time. Glad you enjoyed yourself. Glad you saw some good things happening. That's wonderful. Let's see who's here with us tonight. There's Noelle. Hey, Noelle. How are you, sweetie pie? There's Jill. She's here. My sissy's here. Thank you for letting me know you can hear and see us. I hope your husband, my brother-in-law, my favorite brother-in-law, my only brother-in-law, is there with you. Hey, Brother James, tell KK I got her message. We got her message. We just haven't had a chance to respond yet. Sister Pearl's here with us. She's here with us. That's, by the way, that's the young lady that did the T-shirts for us. And there's Sandra. Hey, Sandra, glad you're here, sweetheart. John Grease is in the house. I would say you're the troublemaker, but I'm going to say you're the instigator. It would be nice to say you're the instigator, because if Pastor start cutting up, he's going to add fuel to the fire. I know. To the fire. And then there's my honey pie, my preacher, my upcoming preacher, Diaquilin.
Yes.
She's been preaching lately. She really has been preaching lately. And there's Vern. I had a good conversation with her just maybe a couple hours ago. Yeah.
Everybody going to eat their home slice. That's my nickname to her.
Yeah, you guys been knowing each other since college.
Since 1986.
Wow, that's a long time. That's a long time. We've been knowing you guys that long. That's something new.
Since 1986. Matter of fact, I might have met y'all in 1985.
Oh, really? Because the church on McConnell was very, very new. In fact, we hadn't even gotten our 501c3 when maybe just right after you got there, we got that 501c3. It had just got activated, and everything. So yeah, we were right in we were newbies. We were newbies in town. Really
Oh,
were.
you couldn't tell that back then.
Well, it took us a while to understand the process of forming a church business. It took us a
Mhm.
while because we were ready for gung ho for ministry, but it took us a little bit to understand the church ministry, the business of church, and Vern learned that with us. So now she's a consultant for all the churches now.
You right. You right.
Yeah, that's her business. So anyway, we've been knowing that young lady a long time. There's Dee Dee. Hey, Dee Dee. Hey, Kathy. I'm glad you're here, sweetheart. And of course, for those of you who don't know, this is Pastor Norman. This is Pastor Norman, who is in South Carolina, coming from Georgia today, and
Mhm.
has a wonderful ministry down there. He's our spiritual son. We've known him for so long. And he's been hanging in there with us. There's my brother-in-law. How you doing, brother-in-law? Yeah, so hey, it's been a nice day today. Hadn't been too hot, not too bad. I've been lazy today. Haven't done much of anything. Nothing.
Wow. Can I do that?
Yeah, sure. Because you probably need it. You probably do that.
Yeah.
Look, John Greason's saying I am. He's admitting that he's the instigator. So hey, the pastor's here. If he's going to ever come over here in this chair, he's busy on the other computer. But anyway, I wanted to kind of talk about a couple of things tonight. I don't know how far we'll get into it, but I just wanted to mention something. This morning, I was watching one of the spiritual teachers that we frequent quite a few times. We've watched him several times, references and things like that for different points of view. He was talking to an older lady who he had known for quite some time, and she was talking about how that she had been in a relationship with God, was used to having an intimate conversation with God in prayer, and felt like God was central to her in her life, and that it's where she got great comfort. It's where she found places of peace and stillness in that time of feeling the presence of God and things like that. And
Mhm.
she was trying to reconcile, her mind was trying to reconcile the oneness or the beingness with that. And she she had come into the awareness of herself as being that. However, it was like her mind and her feelings was saying it's not enough,
Mhm.
because she was still long. She said at one point her prayers began to feel like God was no longer central when she came
Mhm.
into the oneness understanding. And it was a perplexing thing for her. She asked the spiritual teacher, "Well, how do you pray?" And so she was saying at some point it felt like God as my center that center began to dissolve. And so
Mhm.
and I've said this before, I'm saying it maybe in a different way, that there's a cognitive dissonance that takes place when you enter this understanding of oneness, where you have several things that happen. One of the things that happens is there's a lack of motivation. The other thing is uh, a kind of a confusion about how to relate to God, um, and how to navigate life when you're used to turning to God for every solution and answer and intervention. And then it seems that in the Christian religion we would say the heavens shut close up.
Mhm.
And so, or you enter a dry spell. Uh, the saints of old, the mystical saints, called it the dark night of the soul. So it's like you understand your oneness, you understand that, and you understand that there is no other self but God, that is the self. However, the mind and the feelings still want some kind of interaction. That makes sense?
Mm. I would also like to add the word evidence.
Yes, yes.
Mhm.
Evidence that God is present. And I
Mhm.
have to say that the spiritual teacher, his name is Rupert Spira, by the way, he was very proficient in pointing this older lady to who she is. He had her to close her eyes and he asked her the question, are you, how did he put it? He said, are you aware right now? And she sat there for a moment, and he said, without relating to your past, and to pretend you had no past, he said, are you present right now? And she said, yes. It took her a while to say that. She had to say it with honesty and not just because that's the right answer. So he said, are you present right now? She said, yes. And he said, can you tell me about yourself? Not relating to your past, not relating to anything about your physical anatomy. Can you tell me about yourself? And her answer was, I can't because I have no qualities. And then he said, good, you have no qualities. And then she said, tell me more. And then she said, the only thing I can say is I am. So she had that experience of her own beingness without anything added. She was able to find herself as that. However, she was still not satisfied because it didn't touch the feelings. It didn't touch her mind. Her mind still had hunger for the experience of God's presence. And her feelings still had hunger for the sensing of God's presence. What the spiritual teacher said to her was, that you felt or that you experienced as being present right now, he said, that is the presence of God. And she acknowledged that. She said, okay, I can accept that. He said, that is the presence of God. So in fact, you being present here now and staying present is the actual presence of God. She held on to that for a moment. But what I realized is this, Pastor Norman, and all of the rest of you guys. Hey, Sister Sharon. Hey, Sister Phyllis. What I realized is that, and I'm speaking specifically, I think, to those of us who've been in the Christian religion and maybe those who have walked the spiritual path apart from church. We've moved from separation. We've moved away from the habit of feeling separate from God. We've moved away from that and we're still moving away from that. And we've relocated ourselves as awareness and oneness with God as God is our being. Not that I am God, but God is our being. That presence is God, that we feel that we are without any attachments to our physical body, without any qualities that we can speak of. That being present is God, is what God is. That is what we call the self. And there's only one self. Even though there are multiple bodies, there is only one self. So we've moved from the habitual mode of separation from God and have that knowledge and that awareness and that understanding. However, moving into the oneness has caused some of us to feel as if God is gone, feel as if God is gone, think that God is gone, feel that God has ceased to interact with us. And so at that point, some of us have gotten stuck there and long for, and as this older lady was longing for, the interaction with God as if it is separate. Does that make sense what I'm saying?
And I guess because there's, and that's hard to even say that part. I guess because there's a full merger that the thing that you was identifying with all that time through your senses was the part once again that you was embracing, seeking for something or expecting something, but when you enter into that place of oneness, that all vanishes, it disappears, and so it's as
It
if
appears, yes.
someone is missing when all actuality no one is missing. It's just a complete awareness of him totally.
And this is how I've worded it, Pastor Norman. Uh, it isn't that God is gone, but the one that used to experience God is gone.
Exactly. Yeah,
Okay,
good. It's
the
good.
egocentric self has, I won't say it's died, but it is greatly diminished to the point that it can no longer experience God. It can only experience itself.
Mhm.
And so here we go from, but I do believe that this is a midway point, and I've been hearing that for the last week or so, that this is like a halfway point where we are at this stage of knowing and aware of that oneness, and yet there is the dissatisfaction or like there's something missing kind of
Mhm.
thing. And not only that, but the lack of motivation as well, because that is really, really key, especially if you've been very aggressive in ministry or anything like that. You always had the motivation to push, and
Mhm.
then that, you mentioned it when you were going through the COVID, how that a lot of that died off. And
Mhm.
what died off was a lot of the egoic identities and tendencies
Mhm.
that used to do that and used to have that as its fuel. So the fuel, we said this, I think, on Sunday, the fuel has changed. We're not changed, we're exchanged.
Mhm.
So it's almost like, and Dad said this, hey, Dad, I'm glad you're here.
Mhm.
Dad
Hello,
has,
everybody.
Dad has said this before. It feels like he's gone from being the young man that when we met, that young man that was not saved, none of that, living his life, feels like he's gone from that into knowing God, going into the ministry, finding himself, finding out who God is, all of this come back full circle. And now it feels like he's right back as that young man that before he got saved.
Mhm.
Because now he realizes who that young man was.
And the
Mhm.
only friends that I had before this were those guys that in the street. Now you're gonna find out that the street guy that you run around with, that you had to break loose from, is symbolic to the church people who are in the box. They may be your running buddies, they may not, depending on the way you talk to them about your enlightenment.
Mhm.
If you don't talk the enlightenment to the point where you can switch it over in your conversation, I'm telling you what's real now. If you can switch your enlightenment over to the conversation that is churchy, they will not want you around unless they, excuse me, that they beat the hell out of you with the King James version.
Yeah,
Mhm.
and I understand what Dad is saying. You have to speak the same language.
If you don't, you're going to have to tolerate loneliness and rejection from them because they're not going to let you stay around them and tell them stuff like, you know, I saw Jesus face to face, and some of them don't believe in that seeing face to face because they say you communicating with the dead.
Well, and then some
And some of them, I saw one today when I went to get my feet worked on. I saw one today that had the actual experience and understood everything that I said, even to the point where having visitation from a child that died in their 20s and communicate with them from the other side, they know that what I was saying was real. But if you talk to somebody that haven't had that experience or in the curve with it, they will tell you the devil is a lie.
true,
Mhm.
true, true.
That devil in the lie is a pattern that happened to a lot of churchy people and evangelical people. And the mystical people might be there too because they want to blame it on something as to why they're having the dark night of the soul. So they call it the devil. And it's not
Right.
the devil. It's not the devil.
True.
It is the programming in the monkey mind or the ego that won't let it be at peace, at rest. You'll come to a place also where you'll discover that you are not in rest because you don't have anybody to talk to about it.
Yeah,
Exactly.
that's one
Yeah.
aspect.
I was going to say about the devil is a lie. That's become a cliche in the church.
Mhm.
just a empty saying, to be honest with you. But one of the things that Dad was talking about, going full circle, what I have experienced is in the beginning, before like Mom gave the description, knowing God, entering into ministry, being saved, filled with the Holy Ghost, all those things.
Mhm.
Those that was, we'll say, in the streets, like Dad said, that was your friends, people that you could
Mhm.
talk to, hang to, whatever.
Even some
Then,
Christian friends.
then when you end up in that transition, and I would say become religious,
Mhm.
and I immediately I think about being Pharisaic, being like the Pharisees. All right.
Mhm.
Then you kind of lost those friends where they would not really communicate with you, embrace you, because you don't became so heavenly minded that you're no earthly good. I'll put it that way. All right.
Yeah.
So, but when you get to that place of awakening, that place of being enlightened, that understanding of oneness, is as if those that was before in the beginning of your journey are the ones that's more receptive to you again.
Yeah, yeah.
And
That's
that's what I have discovered in where I've went full circle. Those that was receptive to me at the beginning, but then
mhm,
in the middle,
mhm.
because I became religious.
Yeah,
Um, of course, they wasn't unreceptive at that time, but when you come to that place of oneness, awareness, no judgments, those are the ones that once again become very receptive to you. And then those that's
yeah,
part of the religious sect,
yeah.
they the one that really don't want to have nothing to do with you because you're not
Yeah,
speaking
yeah,
their
and
language anymore.
yeah, and that's what we've noticed is that you'll have some people who are very close to you, as Dad said, and then they will drift off because they can no longer identify with the religious persona.
Hmm.
And then when you come out of that religious persona, those that drifted off sometimes can now relate to you better. And
Exactly.
while those who are still in that religious confinement will shun you. So, because now your language changes, your
Hmm.
language changes. But I wanted to say this that it's like we're talking about phases. We're moving, it's like a journey from separation to oneness, and then from oneness back full circle. And that full circle means we go right back into duality, meaning I now, even though I'm one, I now can see the differences. I can acknowledge the differences between myself and others. I can accept the differences because I've no longer passing judgment. So now the oneness has brought us full circle back to a place where God loves the duality, because we all know God created this duality,
Hmm.
this different myriad forms and beings. All of this, He desired it, because when you go back to oneness, God itself was alone and
Hmm.
has been alone, because there is no one, like he said, no one beside me. God has been alone. So God created this duality so
That's
that
what I
it
can
can
say.
have the experiences of others,
Hmm.
other. So we're supposed to come full circle. We're supposed to come back to a humanness with divinity, as divinity.
Exactly.
Yeah. And I think we kind of made duality sound like it was something wrong. But it is not wrong, because it is what God desires. This is why all of this is here, because God desires these experiences. And
Hmm.
He's doing it through and by us.
Here's duality again. You got the Republicans and the Democrats. The in the box mortar, brick and mortar saints of God will tell you that the book said a house divided will not stand, it will
Yeah.
fall.
Yeah.
Well, then the United States better get ready to fall because there's duality.
Hmm.
But when you look at duality, always between duality, there's a middle path. The middle path has to be there, and duality have to be there, so that you can, in the middle path, you can look to the right, to the left, and know how to stay in the middle.
Mm-hmm.
So you ain't gonna do away with this complete removal of left and right,
Mm-hmm.
but you can come to the place in the middle path where you can look at both sides. And watch this. Here's what I'm gonna say. You can look at both sides and be alone. Now it takes what in order for you, whatever you want to call yourself, oneness, non-duality, in order for you to survive the left and the right side in the middle, you're gonna get, I tell people this all the time. When you read any book, if you want to find out the understanding of the paragraph, don't pay attention to this word that said, does it make sense or not? Because in the no making sense, you're going to have to look at both sides. And you're going to have to get used to not being accepted on either side.
Well, and I pointed it out to Dad today in our talking. Yes, we were talking about this the political parties and the division, a house divided against itself will not stand. And it is true, but it's more. I want to convert it just a little bit, and I'll use Dad and I as an example. The two of us are like night and day. We do not think the same way about everything. There are things that we definitely disagree on. Those things that come up that we disagree on is the same thing that Dad is talking about. That's a house divided, right? So if at that point we're divided, there must then be a coming together. So when there is a division, the division isn't wrong. I learned this with Laverne, and I've learned this years ago. This is back when we were learning church business again. We had to learn about checks and balances.
Exactly.
There was a need for the opposites. There was a very strong need for the opposites. So this is why the scriptures tell us that God said, come, let us reason together. So yes, there are going to be disagreements. Yes, there are going to be divisions, but there must be a point where the reasons come together and you come to not so much a compromise, but a way for both parties to get at least some part of what they want.
Exactly. And I'm glad you said that, because that's what, when Dad mentioned about the middle path, there has to be a balance of our abilities, because what a lot of people don't understand, and it goes back to the theological concept of Imago Dei. Not only are we have the ability to actualize God or to reflect Him in the earth, we also have been given the ability for self-actualization.
Yes.
So we have creative freedom. And so we have to know how to balance the two, how I can actually reflect God and still be divine.
And still be human.
And there you go. And then the other part, self-actually, still yet be human at the same time, and not bring no judgment.
Right.
So, again, like you said, that will bring us to the place where we can reason together, realizing that we have that part and this part, and we have the ability to enter into some type of agreement.
Yeah, and I've noticed, and I've learned this over the years, that when there is any kind of disagreement, there is an element of truth in both parties.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And that's the thing. Oh my, you hit that one on the head. That's the funniest thing to me, watching this whole thing with the political party. I mean, literally, this group have some great ideas. This group have some great ideas, but because you're not part of my group, I'm not going to accept your ideas, no matter how good they. And they're going to reason together. Okay, let's pull all of the good stuff here, all the great ideas here, because it's about the people, the whole, and let's create something that works for everyone. They're not having that.
Well, this is what happens even in one-on-one relationships. We tend to, when we have a desire or a preference, we will we will try to change the other person's mind to agree with what we think it should be.
Mm-hmm.
And that's where the fight comes in.
Mm-hmm.
That's where the resistance comes in. When I think that I'm all right and you're all wrong, and so now I've got to convince you that you're wrong, and you've got to see it my way. So then there's no way of coming together in that.
Here's my remedy.
Competition.
Mm-hmm.
Here's my formula. Somewhere in the middle path, getting upset with the left and the right. Somewhere in the middle path, you'll get to the place where you want. You'll get to the place where in the middle path, reactions take place.
Mm-hmm.
The reaction may always be there, but there is a place where you. I say this, but it's not. I'm not going to edge it in stone. There's a place where you get to the place where you just shut your mouth. You don't have nothing to say.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Because you know, after repeated instances, you try to explain it. I'll tell my mouth all the time to shut up.
He does, and he says it out loud, and
I
said,
said, shut up. I just tell me, then sometimes I say, shut the hell up.
So now he is self-actualizing.
I get tired. Something I don't. It's not the God side that gets tired. Something in that monkey side gets tired of hearing his mouth, its own mouth,
Mm-hmm.
and it tells itself to shut up. And then when it shut up, it think God did it. No, it is it. Now, some people say, "Well, I don't have no monkey mind." Lies in God. But
that's the monkey saying they don't have.
You know what I tell people to say that? Go. I'm gonna just tell you how crude it is. Now you go out in the woods and poop and fall back in it because it ain't gonna stop. And some people it does, but you can't go around preaching and talking about it and tell everybody, "I don't have no monkey mind." You need to go sit down somewhere or go play in traffic.
Yeah.
For someone to deny that as if they sit still long enough. Notice what I said, sit still. You could be sitting still and still active, but with the mind, they know their mind be swinging from one thing to the next.
Yeah.
The mood. That's I don't understand why, especially when it comes to religious people. They want to believe that they are, but you have all these crazy thoughts going through your head, and you even ask yourself, where did that thought just come from? And that is the evidence of the monkey swinging from tree to tree.
Yeah, and the thing that gets me, Pastor Norman, is that a lot of us who have had spiritual knowledge entrenched in spiritual knowledge, we think because we can spout spiritual knowledge that is not the monkey. The monkey can recite all of this spiritual information.
Oh yes, yes.
And it will not even be, and it will still be the monkey.
I used to hear
for people to think that monkey ain't religious or that monkey ain't saved. If you believe me, you've seen. Come on, we've seen people in the church, and I ain't talking about the monkey mind. I'm talking about act literally like a monkey.
Yes.
And look at this. I used to hear the old saying, and I'm being straight down the road with you now.
You always are. Right?
Yeah, always. You remember you see the old black and white movies of Jane and Tarzan swinging in the jungle on the vines and
he's not as old as us now.
Yeah, he is.
Oh yeah, I've seen that Tarzan.
He remember Tarzan and Jane.
Oh yeah.
Carol Burnett, you remember she used to do the Tarzan holler.
She said
that's because she grew up watching Tarzan and she decided she wanted to holler like Tarzan.
Well, somebody said one day Jane and Tarzan were swinging on the vine, and she misplaced the vine for a personal part of him, and she grabbed it, and that's what made him say, oh.
Oh, quit.
And she been swinging. Hey, she been swinging on the wrong vine.
I had no idea he was going to go there just now. But I am familiar. I am familiar with the joke.
He's been swinging on the wrong vine ever since.
Oh my God! Yeah, you were making a point. What was your point?
My point is, Tarzan is going to have to straighten up and fly right. He's going to have to fly right, even though Jane may be a little bit nearsighted or farsighted. Okay, there's going to be a time when you can ignore the monkey. There'll be a time you might want to cuss the monkey out. There might be a time you want to slap the monkey.
Well, sometimes it's the monkey wanting to do all of that.
That's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
But eventually it'll become neutral. But now here's the point. You don't know when this thing gonna stop being a warfare, and when you're gonna stop binding and loosing, and when you're gonna stop trying to cast it out. I done told it over and over again. Shut your mouth. I don't want to hear no more from you. Go somewhere and sit in a corner.
But at least you're aware of it, not being that.
Awareness is aware of it.
Yes.
You made me think about the it was a proverb, but they make the statues of it. The monkey, hear no evil, see no evil, speak no evil. And I just thought about that. That could literally be the concept of the monkey, claiming that it sees no evil, hear no evil, speak no evil, but that's all it does.
That's right. That's right.
It expresses those wicked thoughts.
And I don't think the monkey goes anywhere. I think it just fall asleep for a season and that's it.
What would Miss Pearl say that?
Pearl's mentioning something I don't think I'm familiar with. She said, ask Tommy when he pulled those crank calls on Christian. You're going to have to explain a little bit to me so I can catch up with what you're talking about.
Yeah,
Tommy. Yeah.
Yeah.
So anyway.
But we're talking about these areas because when we go into this churchologist salvation thing.
Oh Lord, he's gotten distracted.
My puppy just came up to my lap. They see a nose sticking up there, Pastor.
Jill is responding to that, but I'm still here trying to figure out who Tommy. I'm wondering if that's the
nephew. Tommy pranks Christians all the time, and they go to cussing up a storm on the radio. We never seen that. I never heard.
I know what Tommy they talk about now. When did she say?
Yeah, so I'm not familiar with that. You guys are letting me in on something.
I'm trying to remember which show is it? Is it the Steve Harvey show or Smiley? I can't remember which one he's on.
Now, I know Ricky Smiley, but I've never watched this or anything that you guys are talking about. But how does he prank them? How does he prank them? You know how he pranks them?
Mm-hmm.
How does he prank the Christians? I don't know how he does it.
No, he actually makes a phone call.
And they do what?
There's a Steve Harvey show. There you go. You'll just
and they do what when he makes a phone call? What does he say?
He does a prank. He makes up something as if he's somebody. He does various type of roles.
Yeah.
And then he start cussing about all kind of crazy. People get mad and cuss back and all.
He pull up the monkey is what you guys are saying. That's what you're saying.
But that's a good thing because he know how to get a reaction out of them.
Yes.
Here's something I used to do a lot. I used to go to the Jeep place to get my Jeep serviced. And I tell him, I said, look here, I said, I got a Chrysler 300. And I said, I want to ask you a question. They said, well, what is it? I said, I want to find out why, when I bought my Chrysler from y'all guys, I opened the hood up and found I had a Chevrolet motor in it. And I said, how did it get in there? I said, there's supposed to be a Chrysler engine in there, but I said, mine has got a Chevrolet motor in it. I want to find out who put it in there and how to get in there. They say to me, after I say that, they turn pale first. And then I say, well, they say, well, I don't know how to get in. I said, yes, you do. I said, I bought it from you. So y'all must have put that Chevrolet motor in there. And when I say that, they said, no, we didn't. I said, yes, you did. I said, I bought it from you. I said, somebody need a good butt whooping. And I said, if you put it in there, I'm coming after you. And they turn red. And then sometimes they look like they want to cuss you out, but they can't because you're a customer, you see.
Exactly.
See, now here's the customer. The customer is you've been so used to believing that you are the voice in your head talking 24/7, that when you finally tell it that you don't want to put up with it any longer, it's going to defend itself. And it's going to say, I don't know nothing about it. I didn't do it, but it's the one that's talking to you that did it.
Mm-hmm.
And for real, like one guy said, I was out there at the gravesite the other day and I looked around and I saw you stepping on my mama's grave out there. And I said, I want to know, why did you step on it? That wasn't me. Yes, you was. You were the one out there. I saw you. I mean, you make up stuff to make people mad. What the mind does is make up something to disturb you from the middle path, to get an argument from the false self, which is it.
Mm-hmm.
See, you see the psychological thing I'm trying to point
Yeah.
out to you guys.
Like I tell my people, it the reaction that you give them is out of character. They pulled you out of
Yes, yes, yes,
authentic
yes.
self, out of character. Yeah.
And when I say that to the Christ, the people at the Jeep play, I pull them out of character.
Yeah.
I said,
Dad likes to. He's
they
a
say,
prankster.
they
He
say,
is a
well,
prankster.
you need to go up to the tower and talk to the manager. I said, I ain't talking to the manager. I'm talking to you. You the one sold it to me.
He likes to do that. He does. Now, Jill talking about, the example is they tell him that they're dancing too provocatively during worship.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's Tommy. That's nephew Tommy that does that. Yeah.
Yeah, and the bunny car has to park in the back of the lot.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I used to years ago used to listen to it or whatever, but yeah, he be getting them now. He really do.
And you know what? I make them mad.
And he pulled them out of their Christian character.
That's right. That's right.
I saw the BET 2025 award show, and Kirk Franklin had to close it out.
Uh-oh.
And
Uh-oh.
Kevin Hart came on earlier and said, now you can't be bumping and grinding. Don't be gyrating and twerking. Because that's exactly what Kirk's doing. He's twerking and gyrating all kinds of ways.
Mm-hmm.
Oh my God.
I used to go in the church, Pastor.
And the churches are having a hard time with him right now.
I used to go in the church, and some of the ladies, say like some ladies I meet on the flight when I used to fly a lot, flight attendants, they come to the service. Well, I don't know nothing about what their lifestyle is, but they sit on the aisle on the end. I had one to do that. Sit on the end and sit there and turn and open their legs up right there in the aisle while I'm standing up in the pulpit preaching. Now, what kind of picture is that going to leave in your head? Or you have a dance group to come in and they dance and they half naked.
Oh, wait a minute. You got this.
I was going to tell me something new because I used to get that all the time.
Yeah. There was when we had the large building that had all of these people with us.
Mm-hmm.
There was one young lady that used to come, and she was very shapely.
Yes.
And whenever we would have praise and worship, she was positioned in. We had our church was kind of, so you remember how it was, the seats were sectioned with the aisles, kind of like in a cross section. And she would position herself on the front row of the back section. And when the praise and worship was going on, she would get up and dance. She called it her spiritual dance. And the guys behind her were just freaking out like, whoa.
The keyboard, the keyboard, Jerry and all of them, they missed notes, missed keys.
When you said that, they missed notes.
The men behind her could not worship anything. They didn't even know it was in church. I mean, those poor guys, they had a time.
Guitar string, Pastor, guitar string breaking.
She was very shapely, and man, she accentuated it.
Oh, Lord have mercy.
She was a sweet girl, but oh my God, just kind of thick-headed when it came to stuff like that. And so the men had a hard time. But that's just being human. That's the humanness. You can't expect the men to sit there and not notice that.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Listen to this, Pastor. Pastor, listen to this. We had one girl come in there that gave herself life to the Lord, but she was a prostitute before she did it. So she straightened up and she decided she wasn't filing taxes. She started filing taxes and added her extracurricular job.
When she got saved, that's when she got caught for not filing the tax.
Yeah, she got caught for not filing the tax, because she became straight down the road, honest. Mm-hmm. She had to start paying taxes on prostitution. Yeah. She exposed herself that was one of her jobs.
Now,
See,
now this is completely off of the subject.
no. What we're saying, it may be off the subject, but this
I'm
is
gonna take
what
me a
you
drink.
face. This is
Get
what
a drink, Pastor.
this is what you face. This is what you face when you pastor the church or you into these areas. Some of y'all out there may not know this. You won't. And like somebody told me, said, I ain't never had no trouble with women coming after me since I've been pastoring. I said, you must be a lion or grunt. You stick out in the back, or you lie in the back. You stick out in front. Every pastor somewhere is going to have problems with women coming after them, either directly or indirectly through flirtation. Some kind of way it's going to be there. And you got to be able to stay in the middle path to survive it.
I just had that conversation earlier. Like I said, my wife and I, we had just made it back from Georgia, and mom just having the ball, right? And I had that conversation with her.
You have to stay in the middle path. I said, yeah, you be sliding away.
Sliding away. That's the whole song.
Trying their best to stay in the middle path.
Slipping and sliding, peeping and hiding.
Sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, but that is something that I just had a conversation with another man of God that we met with on our way coming back. And so for say exact thing, but see, that's a norm across the board. So if anybody understand the concept of pastoring, what is another word we use for pastor? Shepherd, right? What do shepherds? What do they shepherd? Sheep, right? Mm-hmm. You know what they say about a sheep, right?
Yeah, I do.
So so that's what I'm saying. We are dealing with so many different scenarios, personalities.
Yeah.
You know, we are compared to the sheep. Mm-hmm. And their temperaments and what they do, and like I said, I don't want to say that particular word, what they actually call
They're
them.
mentally challenged.
Yeah, there you go. Perfect way of saying it, Mom. Mentally challenged. Because I say it all the time. People in the church do some, not just do, but they say some dumb stuff.
Yeah, they do. They do. And the thing is, we do it all believing that we're saying what is, believing that we're hearing God, believing that we're moving in the direction that God wants us to move in. And it's because we don't know the nature of our own minds. But I wanted to go back to this journey that we're all on.
And this is part of it.
This journey that we're all on is you have moved away from that separation into the knowingness of oneness and knowing where God is, knowing who God is and who you are based on that. And now you come full circle back to the place where you're looking at your whole life and saying, now, what is my purpose? What is the purpose of life itself? What is the purpose of my being here? Where do I go from here? When I don't have the motivation, where do I go from here? When do I find the fuel after the exchange, that motivation? And I realized this, it has to come from a place of creativity.
Mm-hmm.
Mom, I want to thank you because that is a daily conversation that I have. Mm-hmm. Almost every morning, every day, those are my exact words.
Mm-hmm. And it has to come from your creative expression. It can no longer come from, I want to be successful. It can no longer come from, I want to prove that I can make this, do this, that I've gotten myself into, that I'm now using as a career. I've got to prove that I can be the biggest and the baddest. I've got to get past that. It doesn't come from, I need validation from people. It has to come from a creative expression. So now I do this because I have to have this to express myself.
Exactly.
So, I say this sometimes when I used to go speak. I haven't been out speaking a long time, but when I used to go speak, I'm here to express and not impress.
And that's the word I was getting ready to use. It's not about impressing.
Yeah, and when you're driven by ego, you really are trying to impress.
Exactly.
Even if it's in a one-on-one relationship, you're trying hard to impress. Mm-hmm. So when you come into this and you understand you're no longer motivated by that egocentric idea, then you can only express your creativity.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, because I was well, based off of what my wife and I was doing, we was asked to quit, we want you to critique everything, let us know what y'all think, whatever. And so I had to explain that to them at the end, understanding culture, not comparing yourself, because as I was going to the service, I heard in the car with no plans of really ministering or whatever, but to let the people know this ain't that. So whatever, you was connected to in the past and all of the conditionings you went through, stop comparing where you are now with that. We
Yeah.
get ourselves in trouble. Don't compare your leaders now with the leaders you had before. Don't
Yeah.
share with them what you used to do or was over there. This is not that. This is something new. This is something different. So remember not the former things. It didn't mean bad or good. It just says do not keep recalling the past.
Yes,
And
yes,
so forth. And
yes.
so I did that
So,
with them. So I had to tell them, I said, okay, y'all don't need to change nothing. Y'all have discovered your own culture, which simply means this is how we do it. And don't ever get to the place where you're trying to impress. I
yes.
understand who we are, my wife and I was, but we don't need that. We're here to worship together, period.
Yes, yes. And so I know from and again, I don't want to get on politics, but I knew when they said we're going to make America great again, you cannot turn the clocks back. And the clock, when you turn the clocks back, you are trying to recapture something that has passed and is gone, and it was supposed to be gone.
But see, you just revealed and exposed the hidden agenda.
Yeah.
See, I knew that from the time that the slogan was created and they began to say, make see, people don't listen, all right, and they don't discern what's being said. But you kind of hit it last week on the broadcast last week and so forth. But that's what they're trying to do. They're trying to recapture something in the past history. You see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So they're trying to reduplicate something that has happened before, but guess what? It would never happen.
And see, you remember what's the name of that show used to come on? Was it where the woman would sing "Those Were the Days"? Remember that? Archie Bunker and
you talking about
yeah,
All in the Family.
Days.
All in the Family, yeah.
All in the Family. Yeah, some of us are haunted by the past traumas, but then there are those of us who are haunted by what we call the good old days. And this is what's happening. We're trying to turn the clocks back. Some are trying to turn the clocks back to when it was good old days for them.
That's the PTSD of everybody in this dimension. What was that?
Baby girl was doing something.
The PTSD.
She's probably under the table because it's thundering outside.
Yeah, she's scared of thunder and lightning.
Oh,
Yeah. That's the PTSD of a dog. She had a problem with that noise. Yeah, I guess so. I don't know.
She's somewhere.
Oh, she's on a piece of paper down there.
Yeah,
I got
under
a
the
package
table.
under there. She stepped on the carpet.
So we're all moving away from the separation, but we're also moving back into that place where we're being very, very human. And this is why Jesus said he was the Son of Man. He never said he was the Son of God. He said, I'm the Son of Man. And so we're moving right back full circle to coming back to being very, very human, but knowing our own divinity when we do.
Exactly.
And so it isn't to be rejected. It's
one of the most gracious things that I've had to happen, and it's more frequent now. I'll be going out to, like I was in Walmart today, and two people are coming through an aisle looking for some fabric, and I run across a group of people there, and one of the ladies and man turned around and they recognized. Excuse me. I said no. They let me come through, and we got to talk. And I said, I see y'all looking for fabric. And then I turned around and walk over, and I said, wait a minute. Can I tell you something good? Sometimes I say, wait a minute, can I tell you something? I said, well, it depends on what it is. I said, this is good. I said, I had the experience of looking in Jesus' eyes. When I looked in them, I saw the eternal in everybody that I meet. Now, most church folks said you can't be eternal without accepting him. But here's what I tell them on that. You can't be eternal without accepting him as your Lord and Savior. That's what churchology is. You must be born again to get eternal life. This is church now. We know better. When I turn and say to them, I was shown how to see him in your eyes, and I said, I see him in you, looking at himself over here. Some people stop and tears stroll down their face. They said, I needed that.
Wow.
Because they want average church person or a religious person want to see God in their life.
I think everybody does, not
And well,
just the church.
just the ones that I run across, briefly speaking, they say, I needed to hear that. And they turn and look. I said, I can see him in you looking at me through your eyes. I said, he showed me how to do that. But I said, this is based on the definition of the word omnipotent, omnipresent, and the eternal. So here's what I say to them, a lot of them. And this will help a lot of you guys. Get you a glove and hold it up in front of your face. Stick your hand in the glove. Now, this is symbolic to you being an eternal spirit inside of a glove. If you take that glove and put it on, every movement you make in your eternal self, the gloved fingers gonna move.
And you give it purpose.
And you give it reason to exist. Take your hands out of the glove and lay the glove down, and that glove is dead. You are now realizing that you are the eternal life being that is causing this body to function.
That's it.
It has no business moving without a hand. That glove has no business moving without a hand in, unless you got a rat inside of it.
So now I'm gonna show you. I'm gonna show you the evidence of oneness. This is so funny. I had to laugh when Dad gave that illustration. Right before we got on the broadcast, I went into Google. I don't know why this thought came to my mind. What is a body without a spirit?
Now,
this is what came up. It's sitting here the whole time. And so it said, a body without soul generally refers to a state where a physical body lacks the animating, conscious, or meaningful essence that is often associated with the soul or spirit. Dad, you just gave the illustration. I had no idea why that thought came to me right before we got it. I just put it in real quick to see what pop up. Here's sitting here, you just said it.
Can you tell me, unless you're just agnostic and don't really understand, and your sophisticated reasoning is done blowed out, you cannot tell me that body, let me go back, start over. We've had some people in church say they went to funerals and the person or the loved one is in the body is in the casket. And so they knew that some of the people were drinking buddies with some of the people's bodies in the casket. So they come in, I hear people say they find bottles of moonshine, liquor.
I saw someone put
hiding stuff under the body, so when they're on the other side, they can get a drink.
Yeah, I saw someone literally put a bottle in the casket.
Yeah, she saw it, and I see one guy was buried in his Cadillac. He liked Cadillac.
I remember that. Yeah.
And I told you about the lady whose husband, he made her promise that she would put all his money in the casket with him, right? And she got to the funeral. And she agreed. She got to the funeral and they get ready to lower the casket down, and they were just letting everybody to just get a last look. And she said, "Wait a minute." She said, "I got to put his money in there." And her friend said, "No, what you doing? You can't do that." She said, "Yeah, I'm gonna put it in there." And she put a check in there.
I was hoping that's what it was. Right?
Yeah. I wrote him a check.
Yeah, never cashed That's a good one. Hey, I followed your wishes.
Yeah. There you go.
Yeah. So this is this is a real, I won't say a learning curve, but it's an adventure for all of us to come into our full potential, our creative abilities, our full purpose. And you don't have to know your purpose in order to fulfill your purpose. And see, the mind wants to know ahead of time, and it don't always know. But if you follow your creative expression, you will run into it.
Yeah, eventually you will.
And that is the part of your next phase, your creative expression. So everything now will be motivated by your creative expression and not by your egocentric desires to be known or be seen or any of those kinds of things.
But as you walk this pathless path, you will realize that the clue to this thing, you know, I asked the Lord to take certain things away from me when I was young. And, he never did.
You wish you had to pray that prayer.
I wish I hadn't prayed it because when I got old, it left.
You wanted to get them back.
I said, "Oh Lord, you mean to tell me you heard my prayer way back there when I was 22 and 23?" Yeah, I heard it, but I didn't wait. I didn't want
Somebody
you to.
should tell you don't pray that.
No, don't pray that. The Lord said, I wanted to wait till you got about 70 or 80. And then
The Bible calls that youthful lust.
Yeah, and it's gone. And I said, what in the world happened? The Lord said, you told me to take it, didn't you?
About 70 years after.
Lord have mercy.
We're bad now. We're bad. We get ready to go. We're gonna get ready to go.
That was a delay. That was a delayed answer, right?
7 years to answer that prayer.
You asked me to take it, didn't you? I said, yeah, but not now. Then it tells me, go on to the doctor and see what he'll tell you. He might be able to help you.
Oh, look, guys, we got to stop here because before this thing disintegrates anymore than it because the way we're going now, it might disintegrate just a little bit more. But we want to thank you for spending this hour with us. And Pastor Norman, once again, thank you for taking the time to come and have this conversation. What?
I'm convinced that everything that we've said to you guys over the years, even at today, is a part of walking in enlightenment and waking up to your true identity.
It is. Yes, definitely. And hopefully these conversations will kind of give you some way of understanding where you are in all of this, how you are, what stage, what phase you're in, how to go through it by watching what we talk about and how we're navigating through it, because we're having to learn it on our own as well.
We want to thank you guys out there, Miss Leslie. We want to thank all of you little Leslies out there for the gifts that you sent to me and the gifts that you sent to Pastor Norman. We want to thank you with a great heart of the Christ self appreciation.
Yes. I got Pastor Norman's thing here somewhere. There it is. So it won't hide that. Thank you, Jill, for reminding me how to do this sweet pie. Because I don't remember how to do half this stuff. But so we will be back on Sunday, live and in color at 10 o'clock in the morning. Lord willing, nothing happens. And Pastor Norman will be on at 9 on Facebook. And then he'll have this in-person service on Sunday. We didn't even talk about your in-person. You were in Georgia though this Sunday.
I was in Georgia at another service in Georgia. I had speak for us on this past Sunday while my wife and I was out of town. We want to say happy birthday to Rondo, and Laverne's birthday is tomorrow.
Yeah,
Rondo.
Nice.
Rondo.
You're getting young, girl. You're getting young.
Laverne, you come over here, I'll slap you.
This is 4th of July week. So I know some of you may be planning trips and things. Be careful, be alert, stay alert on the road. And if you don't have to travel, stay home. Stay home. So you won't be in that traffic. But anyway, have fun, whatever you're going to do. We'll look forward to seeing you on Sunday.
The old saying I used to say, I forgot what it's. Oh yeah, keep your nose clean, your britches on, and we'll see you on the turnaround.
Oh my God. Did you really mean to say that?
Yeah, I
Yes,
did.
guess you did.
Yeah,
didn't
keep your nose clean, your britches on. I'll see you on the turnaround.
Boy, y'all had some sayings back then, boy. Good God.
Yes, Lord, he had some sayings. I tell you, Pastor remember all those crazy sayings too. My daddy had a bunch of them too.
Yeah.
My grandfather did, but I can't remember all of them.
And hey, and
It's
don't.
probably good you don't.
And they always say, and don't take no wooden nickels.
But I remember I did hear that one. Yeah.
They wishing y'all a happy birthday, Bernie Byrne.
Look at that. That's something. They coming
Nice.
on. They coming on. Come on in, y'all.
So we'll see you on Sunday. We love you. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Good one. Bye-bye.